What's good, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be covering what would happen if Tanjiro was Bakugous Reincarnation. You see the title, you see the thumbnail, you know what you're here for, so get your popcorn, your snacks, leave a like on the video if you end up watching the whole thing and you enjoy it, and with nothing else to say, ladies and gentlemen, enjoy.
Hey Ross, sauce it up.
Our story starts off with Tanjiro making his way down the mountain. However, before he could do that, Tanjiro was asked by his siblings if they could potentially go along with him. He turns to them and in Bakugo-like fashion goes on and basically yells some profanity at them before then making his way down the mountain, and his family pretty much saying don't worry, he just gets cranky when he has an A. Tandro from here would go on and make his way down the mountain, and when I say Tandro, I basically just mean Bakugo. And as this is happening, he would go on, sell the coal, and he'd pretend to be nice for a bit, and by the time that he's making his way up the mountain, this man would stop him. Bakugo would say, sorry, not Bakugo, but Tandro, I mean, it might as well be Bakugo. But anyways, Tandro would look at the man and say, he doesn't need anybody's help, right? But then the man would say that it gets very, very, very bad and dangerous to go up the mountain at night, so he insists. He can even offer him some food. And Tanjiro's stomach would growl and he just he looks at him and he says, okay, but I'm only staying for a bit. And then from here, he goes over to the man's house. They end up grubbing and then Tanjiro feels very, very, very sleepy. The man put something in it so that Tanjiro basically ended up passing out so that he wouldn't go up the mountain because he knows Tanjiro. Tanjiro doesn't listen to anybody, and although he may act nice, in reality he knows what he's really like. He's heard him screaming a couple of things the last couple of times that he went up the mountain, so he kind of understood what was going to happen if he didn't do this. Therefore, Tanjiro ended up waking up the very next day, and eventually he would end up making his way up the mountain only to find out that his entire family had been massacred. In a moment of just complete desperation and just the scene changing and him smelling the blood, he makes his way up and he sees his entire family slaughtered. He thinks to himself this has to have been a bear or something, that he's gonna avenge his family, but then he remembers exactly what that old man told him, saying that there's demons at night and that sometimes they kill humans. And Tanjiro would just feel genuine fear in his heart. He thinks to himself that this is the work of a demon. He would think. As from here, he would get angry and he would shoot an explosion so massive into the air before then realizing that his sister, Nezuko, she's still alive. He rushes over to her immediately, grabbing her and picking her up and running down the mountain as fast as he can, saying, "Don't worry, Nezuko, I'll get you to safety. I promise." As from here, he runs down the cliff. However, halfway, Nezuko would shove him and they would both fall in the snow. Immediately, Tandro would turn to the side only to see Nezuko jump on top of him, and then once she does this, she would begin to almost try to attack him. Using a hatchet that he had handy, he would shove it into her mouth. As from here, he would basically stop Nezuko from being able to bite down on Tanjiro. Tandro would look at her and would say, "Nezuko, come on, snap out of it. What are you doing? You can't attack me." In the casual Bakugo voice, right? And Nezuko's tears would begin coming out of her eyes because she loves her big brother. Even though he doesn't say it often, he does care for her a lot. And he's like, "Nezuko, please, I can't lose you." He would begin crying himself. And Nezuko would then go on to cry hard. And it would be at this moment that Giyu would arrive. And Bakugo, who has long hair, Tanjiro, would then jump on top of Nezuko, protect her. And this would cause his hair to get cut off. However, it wouldn't matter because Giyu would easily be able to grab a hold of Nezuko, and Bakugo would turn towards him and say, "How dare he," as he claps both of his hands together and says, "Let her go," and then just screams, "Die!" And he would let out a massive explosion, causing Giyu to jump back, and the utter shock on his face would be priceless. Giyu would turn to Tanjiro and say, "How'd you do that?" And Tandro would simply look back at him before saying to let go of his sister, shooting off with his ability to pretty much use his explosions behind him, and he would be right in front of Giyu's face before Giyu could even react. Shooting an explosion full power at Giyu's face, Giyu being forced to let Nezuko go, and him being shocked at the utter strength displayed by this kid. Eventually, Giyu would land and hold his hand out saying, "Stop." And Bakugo would stop and he would look at him and say, "What do you want? Come on, let's keep the fight going." And Giyu would say, "No, that gift, how did he get it?" And Tandro would say he was born with it. Ever since he turned 4 years old, he was able to access it. And Giyu would turn to him and say that is not normal. Like, that is incredible. And his sister, it almost seems like she's not a regular demon. He would look at him and question him if he's some sort of human hybrid demon thing. And Bakugo would say, what is he talking about? He would then go on to say that if he knows anything about that creature that massacred his entire family, he better tell him so that he can go kill that thing. And Giyu would say, "You poor soul. If only I had gone here a couple of days sooner, this could have all been avoided." And I know that Giyu says that, but let's be honest. If Giyu would have got there at the proper time, Giyu and Tanjiro's family would have been massacred. Like, at that point, it would have just been a bloodbath. But anyways, though, Tanjiro would look at him before then saying that, he needs to leave him alone. And Giyu would say if he truly wants to take revenge, he knows how. And Bakugo would say, "What do you mean?" Before Giyu would then go on to say that he knows of somewhere that he can train to become strong enough to kill the demon that killed his family. He knows the name of the demon. His name is Muzan Kibutsuji, the king of the demons. And Bakugo would say, "King of the demons? Well, he's going to be the king of the dead as soon as I finish with them. Now show me where I need to go." From here, Giyu would say, "Come on, grab your sister. I'm willing to bet that she's probably special just like you. Maybe that's why she hasn't lost full control yet. I've seen a lot of demons in my time, and none of them ever are able to show restraint quite like your sister. So take her with us, and maybe, just maybe, there might be a way to cure her." As from here, Tanjiro would give him like a nod, and they would make their way towards the direction of Urukadaki. Once there, Giyu would explain the entire situation, and because Giyu was with him, the second that they made their way towards the direction of where the mountain is that Urukadaki would have been at in the original, where Tandro would first meet him for the very first time, and Giyu would encounter the demon, he would actually end up looking towards Tandro and asking him if he thinks he could handle that thing. And Bakugo, or Tanjiro, would turn towards Giyu and say, "Of course he could. Piece of cake. That weakling?" He would blast off towards it and shoot an explosion directly in its face, blasting the demon's face off, as the demon would begin healing and saying that wasn't cool. And who does he think he is having those abilities, right? If he's using blood demon art. And Tandro would be completely stunned, like, how is he not dead? I blew his head off. Giyu from here would blitz, cut its head off and say that that's why. Because the only way to kill these demons is with a Nichirin blade. And then he would also say that the other way is to burn them in the sun. And Bakugo says, "Oh, why didn't you tell me that? I could have just kept beating it down until sunlight." And Giyu would then go on to say that you're kidding, like there's no way you have the stamina for that. And Bakugo says, "Of course I do. I've been training all my life. Don't you ever underestimate me, you freaking extra." As from here, Giyu would look at him, kind of like give him a bit of a chuckle, and then Urukadaki would arrive and go on to say that, "What are they doing here?" Giyu would go on to explain that it's perfect that he meets him here because he actually came to drop off this kid and his sister. He'd go on to explain the situation personally, and thus the 2-year time skip in which Tanjiro would train, just like in the original, meeting Sabito and all that stuff would go down just like in canon. Eventually, what we would end up having happen here is that Tanjiro would complete his training, and eventually after all this would make his way towards final selection. Once he would make his way there, the entire process would be relatively easy, until he makes his way towards the demon with the blood demon art ability. The one with the very fat boulder-like neck, right? The fat one. And the second that Tanjiro sees it, his blood just starts boiling like a Saiyan almost. And he says, "Hey, are you the demon responsible for killing most of the people in this cruddy dump?" And then the demon says, "One of Urukadaki's brats. Perfect." Shooting an arm at his body, as Tandro would use his explosions to glide up into the air and say, "Who do you think you are? Full?" Or not full counter, but he would go on to say, "Howitzer impact!" as he flies down towards the direction of where the demon would be at. And he would shoot an explosion full on force at the demon's eyes. The demon's eyes would take a little bit to regenerate, and as that would be happening, Tandro would straight slice its neck off and then continue making his way into final selection, ultimately selecting the grade for his sword, and he would actually end up getting a red blade. Unlike the one that Tandro has in the original, he would get a red blade and the special one. So when he meets the swordsmith would be very pleased with him, and ultimately once he embarks on his first mission, everything would be going almost just like canon. He would make his way towards the small town in which he does in the original, and once there, he would end up seeing that there would be some guy basically getting bullied by some grown man, telling him off, saying, our daughter, our daughter. Tandro would make his way there and ask, what's going on? Tell me right now, what did you do? And then from here, the man would say that he let our daughter die. And he'd say, oh, she probably got killed by a demon. Don't worry about it, my family got killed by one too. I mean, my little sister's still alive, but it's all good. Like, I can kill this demon. And then these parents would like look at him and be like, you're crazy. They slammed the door in his face, and ultimately Bakugo would like bang on the door and say, don't you ever slam that door in my face again. You know what I mean? Like, how dare you? And then ultimately he would pretty much just make his way towards like the city and use the scent of smell, not even taking that one guy that he would have in the original with him to find these things out, but still find the triplet demons either way. And once he does that, let's just say he massacres them. The second that one of them pokes their heads out, he's not playing games. Like, the second he sees that little water thing open, he straight shoots himself in there with his explosions, and he proceeds to straight not care. Like, he's like, oxygen? Who said I need oxygen? And he proceeds to speed blitz them with his explosions in the swamp and go on to straight slash them over and over and over. Like, he doesn't like, oh, cut their head off, that's it. Nah, bro proceeds to slash each one to really let him know that he wants them to feel pain. It would get to the point where one of the other two would rush in after like scrunching up his teeth, and he would blitz in and he would try to like slash at the direction of Tanjiro, but he would not care. He would straight turn around and cut him over and over and over, turn back to the original demon, cut him in half, and then another like cut him straight by his neck. And then the demon who like was just about to get cut up again would then get his head cut off, and the last demon would jump out into the normal world, and like Tanjiro's not playing, he straight shoots right up after him. Bro, the demon would be running from him. Like, in the original, the demons are trying to fight him and they're like, oh, we can kill this guy, but this time he straight has him running, bro. It's like you ran into a level 300 sweat on Fortnite that doesn't miss his shots. Like, he started running, bro, and like, it was just tragic, okay? It was just so sad, to say the least, because the second that Katsuki caught up, aka Bakugo, he would go on to slaughter this demon without even caring about the information. He straight was just having fun with it. Like, that's how much of a menace Tanjiro Bakugo is. And from here, he then goes on to basically grab the little thing of scrunchies that all the girls have and throw them to one of the nearest, like throw them at that one guy that he was basically watching get beat up the other day, right? And then it would go on to say, all right, here you go, and then just leave. The guy would be like, thank you so much. And then Bakugo would say, yeah, whatever, shut up. He would grab the things and he would make his way towards the next direction. He would then get a crow and it would tell him where to go. And Bakugo would say, shut up, I'm gonna go wherever I want. And I say, I go where you told me to. And then the crow would be like, rawr, you know, as it just flies away. And like Tandro would make his way straight towards the direction of the house where he meets Zenitsu. And when he sees Zenitsu bothering that girl, he immediately would say, hey, leave that girl alone, shut your mouth, as he grabs him by his collar and drags him along on the mission, saying, aren't you some sort of demon slayer? You sure you should be carrying yourself in this fashion? And from here, you know, like Zenitsu would say he's gonna die soon, so he doesn't care. Like, he needs a wife. He just needs a wife. That's all he needs. And Bakugo would just like look at him and say, bruh, like, you're so annoying, kid. As from here, he would make his way towards the house, and once inside, the kid would say, we lost our sibling in the house. Can you find him? And Bakugo would say, oh, sure thing. As from here, let me tell, bro, what do y'all think that this version of Tandro would do? He cups his hands together, flies up into the air, and straight howitzer impacts the house. He straight pulls a Vegeta, where he shoots a bunch of explosions straight at the house, and ultimately a bunch of demons would be revealed. Zenitsu would pass out due to shock, and it's hilarious because Zenitsu would go on a show off in front of Bakugo before he even got the chance. Zenitsu, falling asleep, would go on to cut the heads off of each one of these demons, and Bakugo, once he would land, he'd be super impressed. He would say, you know what? Even though you're a complete loser, you're powerful. You're coming with me. I need your help to defeat Muzan, and I need as much as I can get. Or, you know, you need as much as you can get. And then from here, some kid in a boar hat would come in and would go on and be like, hey, you guys took out the demons? I was about to beat those demons. And it'd be at this point that Tandro would turn towards Inosuke and say, what are you doing here? And Inosuke would begin to get loud with Tanjiro, and Tanjiro gets loud with Inosuke, and then Inosuke's like, fight me! And he straight just like rushes in at Bakugo, but Bakugo's not playing. He straight shoots an explosion at Inosuke midair, and Inosuke dislocates his joint, so he's able to dodge midair, and ultimately he would almost slash down on Tanjiro. What if it wasn't for the fact that his reflexes are insane, right? So he's barely able to dodge, and then ultimately he whips out his blade and goes, first form, die! As he throws a full power like swing right at the direction of Inosuke, and Inosuke would barely be able to dodge. And then ultimately, he would then say, got your ass with the setup, as he throws an explosion full blast at Inosuke's face, and Inosuke gets sent flying back as he lands on the floor and ricochets off of it. Zenitsu would watch this and would be like, what did you do? And then, Bakugo would just look at him and say, that guy challenged me first of all. Don't you ever raise your voice at me again. And Zenitsu would be like, you could have killed him. Yeah, like he's a human. Yada, yada, yada. And then, Bakugo's just like, I don't care. He challenged me. Eventually, after about 20 minutes, Zenitsu would finally realize that Inosuke woke up. And Inosuke would turn towards the direction of Tanjiro, before then saying that he promises he's gonna beat him someday. And then a crow would come in, basically telling them to make their way towards a mountain. They would do so, and on their way towards this specific mountain, what would end up actually going down is that they would find themselves in a Demon Slayer house that would basically house Demon Slayers. They end up taking a break and eventually making their way up the mountain. And I'm sure that a lot of you guys are thinking to yourselves, Xehther, why did Bakugo not encounter Muzan yet? And you know what? That is a good question. And you know what? I'm going to tell you the answer to that. Because if Bakugo would have gone and encountered Muzan, he wasn't going to play nice like Tandro was in the original. He was going to straight try to murder him. And I want you guys to understand one thing. Bakugo was nowhere near strong enough to murder Muzan yet. So if he would have tried that, he would have actually gotten murdered. Which means that there would have been no more story. I mean, I guess I could have ended it that way just to show like how overconfidence can low-key get you killed sometimes, but I would just rather not. They would make their way up the mountain. Zenitsu would be scared, but ultimately once he realizes that Nezuko's with Tanjiro, he would make his way there. Inosuke and Bakugo this time around, Tanjiro Bakugo, would end up facing off against a giant buff, Zaddy demon. And once they end up facing off against this demon, what would pretty much end up going down is that with both of their combined efforts together, Bakugo would shoot a full powered explosion swing called second form, kill yourself, and from here he would slash at the demon's throat. However, the blade would only barely go like halfway, and then Inosuke would come flying in and he would slash his sword straight, and he would clank his swords onto Tanjiro's, causing his swords to break. However, Tanjiro's blade would go straight through the neck of this demon, and Tanjiro would then begin to laugh and say, easy. As from here, Inosuke would be like, yeah, we make a good team, As from here, they would continue making their way in the mountain, and they would end up encountering this weird looking spider lady, which this time around, Tandro could not care any less for these demons, and he would straight torture the demon, not giving her a nice, sweet, calm death. Nah, none of that. He straight destroys that demon, eventually making his way towards the direction of where that one guy, Rui or whatever, the main spider demon would be at, and then Tandro would basically just slaughter him. Now, what do I mean by he gets slaughtered? I mean he gets slaughtered, because not only is Tanjiro there, but Inosuke is there. So now it's a 1v2. However, I didn't equate for the fact that Nezuko's there with them, so it's really a 1v3. Right? Now, I know a lot of you guys are like, oh, but Inosuke wouldn't be able to face off against this guy. Yes, he could. With the help of a Tandro with this quirk. So every time that Rui would shoot those spider webs, Tandro could just shoot explosions to counteract it. So this demon's special little blood demon art would basically be nothing for Bakugo. And so Bakugo and Inosuke would both be able to straight slaughter this demon, all before Giyu would end up arriving. And Giyu would basically be very proud of, Bakugo. Or Tanjiro, if you really want to get technical about it, right? Eventually, after all of this, what would basically end up happening is that Tanjiro, aka Bakugo, would make his way to where all the Hashira's at. Once he ends up arriving, the same encounter that would have happened in the original would go down, and Sanemi would definitely try to obliterate Nezuko, aka trying to make her like bite him and stuff. And this time around, Tandro doesn't just sit there and watch it happen. Nah. he straight shoots an explosion full power at Sanemi's face, right? And the Wind Hashira would get completely caught off guard. But Bakugo just doesn't care. And Sanemi would whip his blade out before then saying that if he wants to challenge a Hashira, he's more than welcome to have today be his death date. As from here, Tandro would then blitz towards the direction of Sanemi, and they would both engage in a sword clash in which Tandro would actually be even in strength with him, and he would be completely shocked. However, suddenly the Grand Master of all the Demon Slayers would appear, and Tandro would have to stand down. This means this time around, Nezuko doesn't have to get stabbed like in the original, so I guess that's one good plus that would come out of this. The second thing that I definitely am going to be needing to address is going to be Bakugo's breathing styles, which I haven't exactly explained to you guys what's going on. Now, Bakugo did learn water breathing. However, it just doesn't feel very efficient when it comes to the kind of style that Bakugo wants to have. The whole time he was there, Urukadaki kept telling him that he could probably learn some sort of derivative of flame breathing to create his own own breathing pattern, like maybe explosion breathing. But since he's a water Hashira, he was the water Hashira, that's really the only thing that he feels comfortable teaching him with, right? So really, whenever Bakugo says, die, kill yourself, he's using explosions simultaneously with his blade, causing it to basically come in like faster and stronger. And it's kind of like explosion water style kind of thing in Majigger, where it just kind of looks awkward and his breathing style just isn't reformed. It isn't practical, if that makes sense. So ultimately, once this ends up going down, Tandro realizes that the Flame Hashira was present, and the Flame Hashira would ask him what kind of breathing style that was. And, Tandro would basically say it was water breathing and explosions. And, Rengoku would say so kind of like flame breathing, kind of. And, Tandro would then go on to ask him how flame breathing works. Now, it would be at this point that Rengoku would go on to say that he could probably teach him the basics. And Tanjiro would say that he's been wanting to develop his own breathing style because this water breathing stuff is for the P word, is for those kinds of people, right? And Tanjiro would just kind of look towards the direction of, Sanemi and say that he likes that guy as well. As Rengoku would say, yeah, he's a good guy. He's just a little aggressive sometimes. And Bakugo would say, perfect. As from here, he would go on a train with Rengoku for actually quite a while. And once his training with Rengoku would commence, eventually what would happen is we get the Mugen train arc, right? However, during the Mugen train arc, the events of the story changed quite a bit, because this time around, Bakugo kind of developed a booty cheek version of explosion breathing. Not a perfect version, but just kind of like the very, very basic and fundamentals of it, right? So his breathing style would be basically just about ready for him to go on the Mugen train arc.